You know what they say about perfect marriages? They're like perfect photographs, beautiful from a distance, but get close enough, and you can see all the flaws in the composition. My name is Troy Whitman, and I'm a commercial photographer who should have paid more attention to the details in my own life. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It was a Tuesday morning in October when I first noticed Elena acting strange. Not the usual kind of strange, like when she'd reorganize our spice rack alphabetically or spend 3 hours picking out the perfect Instagram filter for her morning coffee. This was different. She was humming. Elena never hummed. In 8 years of marriage, I'd heard her complain about traffic, critique my camera angles, and lecture me about leaving lens caps on the kitchen counter. But humming? That was new territory. "You seem happy," I said, watching her apply lipstick with the precision of a surgeon. She was dressed for work in her sharp black blazer and pencil skirt, the uniform of an HR recruiter who took no prisoners. "Just excited about today's meetings," she replied, not meeting my eyes in the bathroom mirror. "Lots of networking opportunities." Networking. Elena loved that word almost as much as she loved correcting my grammar. She'd been doing a lot of networking lately, late dinners, weekend conferences, mysterious phone calls that ended abruptly when I walked into the room. I should have trusted my instincts right then. After all, I make my living capturing moments that tell stories. But sometimes the photographer is too close to the subject to see the bigger picture. "Who are you meeting with?" I asked, adjusting the camera strap around my neck. I had a shoot downtown, some corporate headshots for a law firm. "Oh, the usual suspects. Brent from sales will be there. He's got some interesting ideas about team building." Brent Callahan, the new sales manager who looked like he'd stepped out of a protein powder advertisement, all white teeth and firm handshakes with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. I'd met him at Elena's company Christmas party last year, where he'd spent 20 minutes explaining why my photography business was quaint and how I should consider scaling up. "Brent's married, right?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Elena's hand paused mid-lipstick application. "Of course he's married. To Melissa. You met her at the party, remember? The quiet one with the brown hair?" I remembered Melissa. While Brent had been holding court by the bar, she'd sat alone at their table, nursing a glass of wine and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. We'd actually had a nice conversation about photography. Turned out she was into landscape work as a hobby. "Right, Melissa." I grabbed my camera bag and headed for the door. "Have fun networking." "I will," Elena called after me. "Don't wait up. These things tend to run late." And there it was, the first crack in the perfect picture. The law firm shoot went smoothly. 47 lawyers, each one trying to look more serious and trustworthy than the last. I'd learned to read faces through my lens, to catch the micro expressions that revealed character. The senior partner had kind eyes but nervous hands. The junior associates were hungry and ambitious. The managing partner was a shark in a $1,000 suit. It was while I was packing up my equipment that my phone buzzed with a text from Paul, my best friend since college, and the only IT guy I knew who could make computer problems sound like dirty jokes. "Dude, you need to see this," the message read, followed by a photo. I nearly dropped my camera. The image showed Elena and Brent sitting at a corner table in Cafe Luna, the trendy spot downtown where Elena and I had our first date. They weren't just sitting, they were leaning into each other, Elena's hand covering Brent's on the table, both of them laughing like they were sharing the world's funniest secret. My phone rang immediately. "Please tell me that's not what I think it is," Paul said without preamble. "Depends. What do you think it is?" "Your wife holding hands with Captain America over here while you're out working." I stared at the photo, zooming in with the kind of professional eye I usually reserved for checking focus and exposure. Elena's wedding ring caught the cafe's ambient lighting. Brent was wearing a blue button-down that I recognized, Elena had complimented a similar shirt on me last month, saying how professional it looked. Where did you get this? I was meeting a client at the building next door, saw them through the window and thought, hey, isn't that Troy's wife? Then I thought, hey, isn't that definitely not Troy? The thing about being a photographer is that you learn to see stories in single frames, and this frame was telling me everything I needed to know about why Elena had been humming this morning. Paul, I need you to do me a favor. Name it. Find me everything you can about Brent Callahan. Social media, work history, parking tickets. I don't care. I want to know what kind of man my wife thinks is worth throwing away 8 years of marriage. Already on it. Give me 2 hours. I sat in my car outside the law firm for another 10 minutes, staring at the photo. Elena had texted me around lunch. Grabbed a quick bite between meetings. Missing you. The timestamp was exactly when Paul had taken the picture. You know what they say about photographs? They don't lie. People do, but cameras? They just capture what's really there. I drove home to our apartment, a 2-bedroom place above my photography studio. Elena and I had picked it because it was practical. I could work downstairs. She could commute easily to her office, and the rent was reasonable for a photographer and an HR recruiter trying to build their careers. Now it felt like a crime scene. I walked through our living room, looking at everything with fresh eyes. The couch where we used to watch movies together. The kitchen table where Elena had been checking her phone more and more during dinner. The bookshelf filled with photography books and Elena's collection of career development guides. On Elena's nightstand, her phone was charging. She never left her phone unattended. Never. Elena guarded that thing like it contained state secrets. But there it was, screen dark, completely vulnerable. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed either. Sometimes you have to develop the negative to see what's really in the picture. Elena's passcode was our anniversary, October 15th. The irony wasn't lost on me. The text thread with Brent was right there, third from the top. I scrolled up, reading weeks of messages that painted a picture I really didn't want to see. Can't wait for our lunch meeting today. I've been thinking about dessert all morning. Brent, you're terrible. Good thing I have a sweet tooth. Elena, your husband's a lucky guy. If you were mine, I'd never let you out of my sight. Brent, good thing I'm not yours then. I like my freedom. Elena, and then, from just this morning, wear that black blazer I like, the one that makes you look like a boss. I set the phone down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady. 8 years of marriage, and my wife was taking fashion advice from her affair partner. My phone buzzed. Paul, right on schedule. Found some interesting stuff about your boy Brent. Want the good news or the bad news? Hit me with all of it. Good news, he's got a mortgage, 2 car payments, and a wife who posts a lot of passive-aggressive quotes about trust on Facebook. Bad news, he's also got a reputation. I talked to my buddy who works at their company. Apparently Brent's had networking lunches with at least 3 other women in the past year. What happened to those women? 2 transferred to other departments. 1 quit entirely. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Elena wasn't Brent's first victim. She was just his latest conquest. Paul, I need another favor. Whatever you need, man. I need Melissa Callahan's phone number. There was a pause. Brent's wife? Troy, what are you thinking? I'm thinking she deserves to know what her husband does during his lunch breaks, and I'm thinking Elena and Brent have been playing games with the wrong people. This could get messy. It's already messy. I'm just going to clean it up. After Paul sent me Melissa's number, I sat in my living room for a long time, staring at my phone. I could call Elena right now, confront her, demand an explanation. We could have a big dramatic fight, maybe go to counseling, try to work things out like adults. But that would be letting them off easy. And after reading those text messages, after seeing how casual and calculated this whole thing was, I realized Elena and Brent didn't deserve easy. They deserved exposure. I dialed Melissa's number. Hello? Her voice was soft, cautious. Hi, Melissa. This is Troy Whitman. We met at your husband's Christmas party last year. I'm Elena's husband. Oh, hi, Troy. Is everything okay? That depends. Are you somewhere private where we can talk? There was a long pause. What's this about? It's about what our spouses are doing when they think nobody's watching, and I think you and I need to have a conversation about networking. Melissa agreed to meet me at Murphy's Diner, a place on the other side of town where neither Elena nor Brent would think to look. I got there first, choosing a booth in the back corner with a clear view of the entrance. Old habits from years of positioning subjects for the perfect shot. She walked in exactly on time, looking nervous and tired. Up close, away from the forced cheerfulness of office parties, Melissa Callahan was actually quite pretty. She had intelligent brown eyes and the kind of natural beauty that didn't need much makeup, the complete opposite of Elena's high-maintenance perfection. Thank you for coming, I said as she slid into the booth across from me. I almost didn't. She ordered coffee from the waitress, then looked at me directly. Your phone call scared me, but also, it didn't surprise me. How long have you suspected? Honestly? About 3 months. Brent started working late more often, taking more business lunches, coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. She stirred sugar into her coffee with shaky hands. But when I asked him about it, he made me feel crazy, said I was being paranoid and insecure. I pulled out my phone and showed her Paul's photograph. You're not crazy. Melissa stared at the image for a long moment, her face cycling through emotions: hurt, anger, resignation. That's the restaurant where Brent proposed to me, she said quietly. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm almost relieved to have proof. It's better than wondering. She looked up at me. How long have you known? About 6 hours. I found text messages on Elena's phone. I showed her a few of the tamer exchanges, watching her face harden with each message. He told her to wear that blazer? He's never complimented my clothes once in the past year. There's more. My friend did some digging. Apparently, this isn't Brent's first office romance. Melissa's coffee cup rattled against the saucer as she set it down. How many others? At least 3 that we know of. All younger women, all in different departments. It seems like your husband has a type. And what type is that? Ambitious women who are impressed by his sales numbers and his gym membership. For the first time since she'd sat down, Melissa almost smiled. You know what the funny thing is? I used to be impressed by those things too. When we first met, I thought Brent was confident and successful. It took me 5 years of marriage to realize there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. Elena's always been attracted to confident men, I said. I just never thought she'd act on it. What do you want to do about this? I'd been thinking about that question all afternoon. I want them to face consequences, real ones. I'm tired of people like Brent thinking they can take whatever they want without paying for it. What kind of consequences? The kind that hurt where it counts, their reputations, their careers, their social standing. I want everyone who knows them to see exactly who they really are. Melissa was quiet for a moment, processing. You're talking about public humiliation. I'm talking about public truth. There's a difference. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through something. Brent's supposed to be at a client dinner tonight, but according to his calendar, that client is in Seattle on business this week. Elena texted me that her networking event would run late. Want to bet they're together right now? What do you have in mind? I grinned. How do you feel about a little surveillance work? An hour later, we were parked outside the Marriott downtown, watching Elena's car in the parking lot. Melissa had called the hotel pretending to be Brent's assistant, confirming that he had a reservation in the restaurant for 2 people at 7:30. There, Melissa pointed. That's Brent's BMW. Elena's Honda was parked 3 spaces away, like they'd planned it that way. Probably had. So what's the plan? Melissa asked. We wait. When they come out, we get pictures. Then we decide how to use them. You know, I never thought I'd be sitting in a parking lot spying on my husband. This feels surreal. Welcome to my Tuesday night. Usually, I'd be home editing photos and watching Netflix. We didn't have to wait long. At 9:15, Elena and Brent emerged from the hotel restaurant, walking close together toward the parking lot. Brent had his hand on the small of Elena's back, guiding her between cars with the kind of casual intimacy that comes from practice. I raised my camera, grateful for the telephoto lens and the parking lot's decent lighting. Through the viewfinder, I watched my wife of 8 years laugh at something Brent said, then rise up on her toes to kiss him. The camera's shutter was silent, but each shot felt like a small explosion. Got it, I said, checking the images on the camera's display. They were perfect, clear, well lit, undeniably damning. Now what? Now we go home and plan phase 2. Which is? Tomorrow, they're going to discover that their little secret isn't so secret anymore. I dropped Melissa off at her car and drove home, my mind racing with possibilities. Elena's car wasn't in our parking space yet, which meant she was probably driving around the block a few times to make her story about the late networking event more believable. Inside our apartment, I uploaded the photos to my computer and started editing them. Not to make them more dramatic. They were plenty dramatic already. Just to ensure they were crystal clear and properly exposed. Professional quality documentation of my wife's betrayal. Elena came home at 10:45, full of apologies and explanations about how the networking event had run long and then she'd gotten stuck in traffic. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek like nothing had changed. "Productive," I said. "Got some great shots today." "That's wonderful, honey. I'm exhausted. I'm going to shower and go to bed." I watched her walk toward our bedroom, already planning tomorrow's revelation. Elena had always been good at playing games, but she'd never played against someone who made a living capturing the truth in perfect detail. The next morning, Elena left for work at her usual time, humming again. I waited exactly 30 minutes, then made my first phone call. "Rhonda Martinez, Human Resources Director," the voice answered. "Hi, Ms. Martinez. My name is Troy Whitman. I'm calling about a potential workplace conduct issue involving one of your employees." "What kind of conduct issue?" "The kind that involves married employees having affairs and using company time and resources to facilitate them. I have photographic evidence." There was a pause. "Mr. Whitman, these are serious allegations. Are you prepared to provide documentation?" "I'll email you everything within the hour. Photos, text messages, timeline documentation. Everything you need to conduct a proper investigation." "And which employees are involved?" "Elena Whitman and Brent Callahan." Another pause. "Elena Whitman is your wife?" "Yes, ma'am. And I believe in accountability, regardless of personal relationships." After I hung up with Elena's HR director, I called Brent's direct supervisor and had a similar conversation. Then I sent carefully curated evidence packages to both companies. Nothing too explicit, just enough to show clear policy violations regarding workplace conduct and the misuse of company resources. My phone rang at 11:30. Elena. "Troy, what the hell did you do?" "Good morning to you too, sweetheart. How's your day going?" "Don't play dumb with me. HR just called me into a meeting. They're asking questions about Brent and showing me photos. Did you hire a private investigator?" "Didn't need to. Turns out when people are having an affair, they're not as careful as they think they are." "This is insane. You're destroying my career over nothing." "Nothing?" "Elena, I saw the text messages. I saw you kissing him in the parking lot last night. I know about the hotel dinners and the fake networking events. The only thing I'm destroying is the lie you've been living." The line went quiet for a moment. "We need to talk. We're talking now. In person. Tonight. This has gone too far." "You're right. It has gone too far. But you're about 3 months too late for damage control." I hung up and immediately called Melissa. "How's your morning going?" I asked. Interesting. Brent came home from work early, looking like someone had run over his dog. He's been locked in his office making phone calls for the past hour. Elena just called me in a panic. I think our plan is working. What's next? Tonight, they're going to try to do damage control. Elena wants to meet in person, probably to try to convince me this is all a misunderstanding. Brent will likely try the same approach with you. And then? Then we move to phase 3. Which is? Public exposure. If they want to play games with other people's lives, they can do it in front of an audience. Elena came home that evening looking like she'd aged 5 years in one day. Her usually perfect makeup was smudged, her hair was disheveled, and her blazer, the same black one Brent had complimented in his text, was wrinkled. "We need to talk," she said, dropping her purse by the door. "I'm listening." She sat down on our couch, the same one where we'd spent countless evenings watching movies and planning our future together. "Troy, I know how this looks. It looks like my wife is having an affair with her married coworker. It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Elena, I have photographs of you kissing him. I have text messages where you're planning secret meetings. I have credit card statements showing expensive lunches that you claimed were work meetings. What exactly am I misunderstanding?" "It's complicated. Actually, it's pretty simple. You decided our marriage wasn't enough for you, so you started sleeping with Brent Callahan. The only complicated part is figuring out how long you've been lying to my face." Elena's composure cracked. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under at work. Brent makes me feel appreciated, valued. He listens to me. I listen to you. No, you don't. You hear me, but you don't listen. When was the last time you asked me about my dreams, my goals, what I want out of life? When was the last time you told me? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like what you want is Brent Callahan." She stood up and started pacing. "I never meant for this to happen. It just developed naturally." "Nothing about this was natural, Elena. You made choices. You chose to respond to his flirting. You chose to meet him for secret lunches. You chose to lie to me every single day for months. What do you want from me? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is double booking a client meeting. This was a calculated betrayal of our marriage. So what now? You've already destroyed my career. HR is conducting a full investigation. I'll probably be fired by the end of the week." "Good." Elena stared at me. "Good? You used your position at work to facilitate an affair. You violated company policy and used company resources to cheat on your husband. There should be consequences. And what about us? What about our marriage?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I was seeing a stranger. The woman I'd married would never have justified betrayal as a response to feeling unappreciated. The woman I'd married would have talked to me about problems in our relationship instead of finding comfort in another man's bed. There is no us anymore, Elena. You ended our marriage the first time you kissed Brent Callahan. She sat back down, tears finally starting. So that's it? 8 years and you're just throwing it all away? I'm not throwing anything away, you already did that. My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Brent just left the house, said he was going to fix this mess. Thought you should know. Elena, did Brent say he was going to talk to me? She looked up, surprised. How did you know that? Because his wife just texted me that he left the house to fix this mess. What exactly does he think he's going to fix? He wants to explain that this isn't entirely my fault, that he pursued me, and I was vulnerable because of problems in our marriage. Problems in our marriage that you never bothered to mention to me. I tried to talk to you about feeling disconnected, but you were always busy with work or your photography projects. So instead of trying harder to communicate with your husband, you decided to communicate with Brent Callahan. That makes perfect sense. The doorbell rang. Elena and I looked at each other. That'll be Brent, I said. This should be interesting. I opened the door to find Brent Callahan standing in the hallway, looking like a man who'd spent the day getting his ass handed to him by corporate HR. His usually perfect hair was messed up, his tie was crooked, and his confident smile was nowhere to be seen. "Troy, we need to talk." "Come on in, Brent. Elena's here too. We can all have a nice chat about workplace ethics and marriage vows." He walked into our living room and stopped short when he saw Elena on the couch. "Elena, what are you doing here?" "I live here, Brent. This is my apartment. With my husband." "Right, of course." He turned to me. "Troy, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Really? Which part? The part where you've been sleeping with my wife, or the part where you both lied about it for months?" "It's not what you think." "You know that's exactly what Elena said. Do you two practice these responses together, or do all cheaters use the same playbook?" Brent's jaw tightened. "Look, I understand you're upset." "Upset? I'm not upset, Brent. I'm methodical. There's a difference." "What's that supposed to mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the parking lot photos. "It means I have evidence of your affair. It means I've shared that evidence with your respective HR departments, and it means I'm just getting started. You can't prove anything with those photos. Actually, I can prove quite a lot. I can prove you lied to your wife about where you were last night. I can prove Elena lied to me about her networking event. I can prove you've been using company time and resources to facilitate an extramarital affair. Should I go on?" Brent looked at Elena, then back at me. "What do you want?" "I want you to face consequences for your actions, both of you." "What kind of consequences?" "The kind that make sure everyone knows exactly who you really are." Elena stood up. "Troy, please. Think about what you're doing. If you destroy our reputations, you'll be destroying your own life too. People will know your marriage failed." "My marriage didn't fail, Elena. You failed my marriage. There's a difference." Brent stepped forward, and for a moment I thought he might try to intimidate me physically. "You're making a mistake, Troy. This doesn't have to get ugly." "It's already ugly, Brent. I'm just making sure it's visible." "What's that supposed to mean?" My phone buzzed with a text from Paul. "Package delivered. Check your email." I grinned. "It means Phase 3 just went live." I opened my laptop and pulled up my email. Paul had sent me screenshots of several social media posts: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the neighborhood app Nextdoor. Each post contained carefully selected photos and a simple caption: "When your spouse's networking events include networking with other people's spouses." Truth. Accountability. Marriage matters. "What did you do?" Elena asked, looking over my shoulder at the screen. "I shared your story with the people who know us, our neighbors, our friends, our professional networks." "You wanted to network, Elena?" "Congratulations. You're now the most networked couple in the city." Brent's face went white. "You posted our photos online?" "I posted evidence of your affair online. There's a difference." Elena was scrolling through the comments that were already starting to appear. "I always thought Elena was too good for Troy, but I guess I was wrong. Brent seemed like such a nice guy at the block party. This is so sad. They seemed like the perfect couple." "My neighbors are going to see this," Brent said. "Your wife already saw it. Melissa helped me plan the whole thing." Both Elena and Brent stared at me. "Melissa knows?" Elena asked. "Melissa's known since yesterday. She's been suspicious for months, but you two made it easy for her to get proof. Turns out when you're having an affair, you're not as sneaky as you think you are." Brent pulled out his phone. "I have to call her." "Good luck with that. Last I heard, she was packing your clothes." Elena sank back onto the couch. "This is insane. You've ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything. I just documented what you'd already ruined and shared it with people who deserve to know the truth." My phone rang. Melissa. "How's it going over there?" I asked. "Interesting. Brent's been calling me every 5 minutes. I've been sending him to voicemail." "He's here right now. looking like someone told him Santa Claus isn't real. Good. Is Elena there too? Oh yes. We're having a lovely family meeting. Tell them I said hello and that the locks have been changed. I hung up and looked at Brent. Melissa says hello. Also, you might want to find somewhere else to sleep tonight. This is harassment, Brent said. I could sue you for defamation. With what? Everything I posted is factually accurate. You are having an affair with Elena. You did lie to your wife about where you were. You did violate company policy. Which part exactly is defamatory? Elena was still reading comments on her phone. People are sharing this. It's spreading. That's how social media works, Elena. You post something interesting, people share it, and apparently other people's marriage failures are very interesting to the general public. What do you want from us? Brent asked. An apology? Money? What will make you stop this? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You thought you could take whatever you wanted without paying for it. You were wrong. So this is revenge? This is accountability. There's a difference. Elena looked up from her phone. Troy, please. I know I hurt you, but this is destroying both of our lives. You should have thought about that before you decided to destroy our marriage. Brent headed for the door. This isn't over. You're right, I called after him. It's not. After they left, I sat in my living room, looking at the social media posts that were now spreading across multiple platforms. The photos were getting hundreds of likes and shares. The comments ranged from supportive to shocked to judgmental, but they all had one thing in common. They were holding Elena and Brent accountable for their choices. My phone buzzed with a text from Paul. Dude, you broke the internet. This is everywhere. Another text from my neighbor across the hall. Holy shit, Troy, I had no idea. You doing okay? And another from a client. Saw the posts. If you need anything, let me know. Also, excellent photo quality, even under difficult circumstances. I poured myself a beer and opened my laptop to check the full scope of the social media response. The posts had been shared over 300 times in the past 2 hours. Elena's work colleagues were commenting. Brent's gym buddies were weighing in. Our neighbors were expressing shock and support. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of my own life. But this was just the beginning. The next morning brought a new level of chaos. Elena had spent the night at her sister's house, but she was back at 7 a.m., looking like she hadn't slept at all. The posts have been shared over 1,000 times, she said without preamble. My boss called me at 6 this morning. I'm suspended pending the investigation. Good morning to you too. This isn't funny, Troy. My career is over. No one in HR will ever hire me again after this. Maybe you should have considered that before you started having an affair with a coworker. She sat down at our kitchen table, looking defeated. What do you want me to do? Grovel? Beg for forgiveness? Tell me what it will take for you to stop this. I want you to understand that your choices have consequences. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed Melissa. You violated your professional ethics. And you lied to everyone who trusted you. I get it, okay? I made mistakes. Mistakes? Elena, you had a months-long affair. You planned secret meetings, lied to my face every day, and used marital resources to fund your betrayal. Those aren't mistakes. They're choices. My phone rang. Melissa. Morning, Troy. How are you holding up? Better than Elena and Brent, I'm guessing. Brent spent the night in his car in our driveway. I wouldn't let him in the house. Ouch! He keeps saying he wants to explain everything. But what's to explain? I have photos of him kissing another woman. I have text messages where he's planning secret meetings. The explanation is pretty clear. Elena was listening to my side of the conversation, her face getting paler by the minute. What's your next move? I asked Melissa. Divorce attorney. I'm meeting with one this afternoon. What about you? Same. I think it's time to make this separation official. After I hung up, Elena stared at me. You're really going to divorce me? Elena, you're having an affair. What did you think was going to happen? I thought we could work through this. Go to counseling, rebuild our trust. Trust? You've been lying to me for months. You used our joint credit card to pay for romantic dinners with another man. You told me you were at networking events while you were actually planning your next secret meeting with Brent. What exactly is there to rebuild? Our marriage, our life together. 8 years doesn't just disappear because of a few months of bad judgment. Watch me. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see Brent standing in the hallway, looking even worse than he had yesterday. Your boyfriend's here, I told Elena. He's not my boyfriend. Right. He's your affair partner. Much more mature. I opened the door. Back for round 2, Brent? I need to talk to Elena. She's right here. Talk away. He looked uncomfortable having this conversation in front of me, but he didn't have much choice. Elena, we need to coordinate our stories. HR is asking detailed questions about our relationship. Coordinate your stories? You mean lie more effectively? Troy, this doesn't concern you. Actually, it concerns me quite a bit. You're talking to my wife about how to cover up an affair that destroyed my marriage. I'd say that concerns me directly. Elena stood up. Brent, what exactly are they asking? They want to know how long we've been involved, whether we used company resources, if there were any quid pro quo arrangements regarding work assignments. And what are you telling them? I'm telling them the truth, that we developed feelings for each other but never let it affect our professional judgment. I laughed. Never let it affect your professional judgment? You used company credit cards to pay for romantic lunches. You scheduled fake meetings so you could spend time together. You violated every workplace ethics policy in the book. That's not how it happened. Really? Because I have Elena's calendar, and it shows at least a dozen client meetings that corresponded exactly with your lunch dates. I also have credit card statements showing company charges at restaurants where no actual business was conducted. Brent's confident facade was cracking. You can't prove that no business was discussed. Actually, I can. Elena keeps detailed notes about all her legitimate client meetings. Funny thing, none of her notes from your lunch dates mention anything about recruiting or HR issues. They do, however, include several reminders to wear the blue dress Brent likes and remember to compliment his new haircut. Elena's face went red. You read my personal notes? I read the notes you kept in our shared home office, on the computer we both use, in the calendar we both access. If you wanted privacy for your affair planning, you should have been more careful about where you documented it. My phone buzzed with a text from Paul. Turn on Channel 7 News, now. I grabbed the remote and turned on the television. The local morning news was running a segment about social media and public shaming, and they were using Elena and Brent's story as their primary example. A local couple's marital problems have gone viral this week, the anchor was saying, raising questions about privacy, accountability, and the power of social media to expose personal betrayals. The screen showed blurred versions of the parking lot photos, with Elena and Brent's faces obscured, but their actions clearly visible. The photos, posted by the woman's husband, show what appears to be an extramarital affair between two co-workers. The posts have been shared thousands of times and have sparked a heated debate about whether private matters should be exposed publicly. Elena sank onto the couch. We're on the news. The husband, who works as a commercial photographer, has not responded to requests for comment. However, his social media posts suggest that he discovered the affair through surveillance and decided to expose it publicly rather than handle the matter privately. Brent was staring at the television in horror. This is a nightmare. The story has resonated with thousands of social media users who have shared their own experiences with infidelity and betrayal. Many are praising the husband for holding his wife accountable, while others argue that public shaming is never appropriate for private matters. The segment ended with the anchor saying, "We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. Coming up after the break, weather and traffic." I turned off the television. Congratulations, you're famous. Elena was crying now. Troy, please, Make it stop. I'll do anything. You'll do anything? Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to move out of our apartment. You're going to file for divorce and agree to a settlement that compensates me for the marital resources you wasted on your affair, and you're going to accept the consequences of your choices without blaming me for exposing them. Where am I supposed to go? I can't afford my own place without my job. That's not my problem anymore. You should have thought about the financial implications before you decided to risk your career for Brent Callahan. Brent stepped forward. Elena, you can stay with me. Where? Melissa changed the locks on your house. I'll get a hotel room. We'll figure something out. I looked at them, standing there together, finally admitting what they'd been hiding for months. How romantic. Nothing says true love like a Motel 6. Elena wiped her eyes. You're enjoying this. I'm enjoying accountability. For the first time in months, you're both facing real consequences for your choices. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. What about forgiveness? What about second chances? Elena, you had hundreds of chances to tell me the truth. Every morning when you lied about your plans for the day, every evening when you lied about where you'd been, every night when you came to bed, pretending you were still committed to our marriage, you used up all your chances. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Troy Whitman Photography. Mr. Whitman, this is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News. We're doing a follow-up story on the social media affair exposure, and we'd like to get your perspective. I looked at Elena and Brent, both of whom were listening intently. I'd be happy to talk with you. When would be convenient? We could do a phone interview right now, or if you prefer, we could meet in person this afternoon. Let's do it in person. 2 o'clock work for you? Perfect. We'll meet you at your studio. After I hung up, Elena stared at me. You're going to be on the news? Apparently. What are you going to say? I'm going to tell the truth. That my wife had an affair, that I discovered it through evidence she left behind, and that I decided the people who know us deserve to understand what really happened. You're going to humiliate us on television. I'm going to hold you accountable on television. There's a difference. Brent grabbed Elena's arm. Come on, we need to get out of here before this gets worse. Worse? Brent, how exactly could this get worse? Trust me, I said. It can always get worse. The news interview went better than I'd expected. Jennifer Walsh was professional and fair, asking pointed questions without being sensationalistic. I explained how I'd discovered the affair, why I'd chosen to expose it publicly, and what I hoped to accomplish. Some people are saying you went too far, she said, that private matters should be handled privately. This stopped being a private matter when my wife started using our joint resources to fund her affair, I replied. When she lied to me about where she was spending our money and our time, she made it my business. When Brent violated his company's ethics policies, he made it his employer's business. I just made sure everyone had the same information they did. What do you say to critics who argue that public shaming is never appropriate? I'd say there's a difference between shaming and accountability. I didn't post anything that wasn't true. I didn't exaggerate or embellish. I simply documented what was happening and shared it with people who deserved to know. Have you heard from your wife since the story broke? Elena has asked me to take down the posts and handle this privately, but I think it's too late for that. She had months to handle this privately by being honest with me about her feelings and her actions. She chose deception instead. The interview aired that evening. By the next morning, the story had been picked up by national news outlets and was trending on social media platforms across the country. My phone was ringing constantly, reporters, talk show producers, and random people who wanted to share their own infidelity stories. I'd become the poster child for public accountability in the digital age. Elena called me around noon, sobbing. Troy, this has gone too far. I can't leave my sister's house without people recognizing me. Someone posted our story in a Facebook group for HR professionals. I'll never work in this field again. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. People are calling me a home wrecker and a slut. Are you a home wrecker? What? You wrecked our home. You wrecked Brent's home. That makes you a home wrecker. I'm not sure why you're surprised that people are calling you what you are. I never meant for any of this to happen. You never meant to get caught. There's a difference. What will it take for you to forgive me? I thought about that question for a long moment. Elena, forgiveness isn't something you can negotiate for. It's something that might happen over time, after you've accepted responsibility for your choices and their consequences. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Our marriage is over. Because of a few months of bad judgment? Because you're not the person I thought I married. The Elena I fell in love with wouldn't have lied to my face for months. She wouldn't have stolen from our joint accounts to fund an affair. She wouldn't have risked her career and our marriage for a gym-obsessed sales manager with commitment issues. I was confused. I felt unappreciated. So you decided to find appreciation in another woman's husband. That's not confusion, Elena, that's selfishness. She hung up on me. An hour later, Melissa called. I just saw your news interview. You did great. Thanks. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. My lawyer says I have an excellent case for divorce. Brent's affair is well documented, and he used marital assets to fund it. I should get the house, half his retirement, and substantial alimony. Good for you. He's been calling me constantly, begging for another chance. Yesterday he showed up at my office with flowers and a speech about how Elena seduced him, and he was just a victim of her manipulation. Classy. Right? Apparently, in Brent's version of events, he's the innocent victim who was led astray by your evil wife. What did you tell him? I told him that even if Elena had seduced him, which I don't believe, he's a grown man who made his own choices. He chose to respond to her flirting. He chose to lie to me about where he was. He chose to risk our marriage for an affair. Nobody forced him to do any of that. How did he respond? He said I was being unreasonable, and that if I really loved him, I'd give him a chance to make things right. Wow. I know, right? Even after everything, he still thinks this is about what I owe him instead of what he owes me. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see a man in an expensive suit holding a briefcase. Melissa, I think Elena just sent a lawyer to my door. I'll call you back. I opened the door to find a middle-aged man with perfectly styled gray hair and the kind of confident smile that costs $300 an hour. Mr. Whitman? I'm Richard Hartley, Elena's attorney. I'd like to discuss a resolution to this situation. Come on in, Richard. Can I get you some coffee? Water? A reality check? He didn't smile at my joke. Mr. Whitman, my client is prepared to offer you a generous settlement in exchange for your agreement to remove all social media posts related to her private life. How generous? She's willing to give you the apartment, all photography equipment, and $50,000 in cash. In exchange for what, exactly? Your agreement to delete all posts, photos, and videos related to her relationship with Mr. Callahan. You would also agree to refrain from any future public discussion of the matter. I sat down across from him. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you actually believe your client is the victim here? I believe my client made some poor personal choices, but that doesn't justify the public humiliation she's endured. Poor personal choices. That's an interesting way to describe a months-long affair that violated her marriage vows, her professional ethics, and her basic honesty. Mr. Whitman, everyone makes mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a calculated betrayal that required hundreds of individual lies and deceptions. Elena didn't accidentally fall into bed with Brent Callahan. She chose to pursue him, chose to lie to me about it, and chose to use our marital resources to fund their relationship. Nevertheless, the public exposure has been disproportionate to her actions. Has it? She betrayed 2 marriages and violated professional ethics policies. The public exposure has simply documented those facts. I haven't exaggerated anything or made false accusations. The offer stands at $50,000. Counter offer. Elena can keep her $50,000 and use it to rebuild the life she destroyed with her choices. I'm not interested in being paid to hide the truth. Richard looked surprised. Mr. Whitman, this is a very generous offer. It's hush money, and I'm not interested. What do you want? I want Elena to face the consequences of her actions. I want Brent to understand that other people's marriages aren't his playground. And I want everyone who knows us to understand what really happened here. And if my client increases the offer? Richard, you could offer me $1 million, and the answer would still be no. This isn't about money. It's about accountability. After he left, I called my own lawyer to discuss divorce proceedings. Elena could keep her $50,000. She was going to need it for her own legal fees. That evening, I got a text from Paul. Dude, you're trending on Twitter. Accountability, not shaming, is everywhere. I checked social media and found thousands of posts from people sharing their own stories of betrayal and supporting my decision to expose Elena and Brent's affair. The hashtag #accountability, not shaming was being used by people who felt that public exposure was an appropriate response to public deception, but there was also a counter hashtag. Privacy matters, used by people who felt I'd gone too far. The debate was fascinating to watch. People were genuinely divided about whether private betrayals should be exposed publicly, and my story had become the focal point for a much larger conversation about accountability, privacy, and the power of social media. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Elena's number. I heard you turned down the settlement offer, she said. I did. Why? $50,000 would set you up nicely for your new life. Elena, this was never about money. It was about truth. The truth is out there. Everyone knows what happened. What more do you want? I want you to stop trying to buy your way out of the consequences. You made choices, and those choices have results. Accept them. I have accepted them. I've lost my job, my marriage, my reputation. What more do you want from me? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to stop playing the victim, and I want you to leave me alone so I can rebuild the life you destroyed. I never meant to destroy your life, but you did, and now you have to live with that. The next morning brought a new development. Brent had apparently decided to fight back. A local blogger had published an interview with him titled, "The Other Side of the Story. A Man Speaks Out About Public Shaming." In it, Brent portrayed himself as the victim of an unstable, vindictive husband who had destroyed two innocent people's lives over a minor indiscretion. Elena and I developed feelings for each other. He was quoted as saying, "We tried to fight it, but sometimes these things happen. We never meant to hurt anyone." Troy's response has been completely disproportionate and frankly disturbing. He's destroyed Elena's career and reputation over what amounts to an emotional affair. Emotional affair. I had to laugh at that one. I called Melissa. Did you see Brent's interview? Oh, I saw it. Apparently our spouses were just innocent victims of uncontrollable feelings who never meant to hurt anyone. Emotional affair. That's what he's calling it now. Right, because kissing in parking lots and planning hotel meetings is purely emotional. What's your response going to be? I'm thinking about doing my own interview, setting the record straight about what Brent's emotional affair actually looked like from my perspective. That could be interesting. Troy, can I ask you something? Do you ever regret exposing them? Do you ever wish you'd handled this privately? I thought about that question. No. Elena and Brent thought they could take whatever they wanted without paying for it. They thought their lies would protect them from consequences. They were wrong, and I'm glad everyone knows it. Even though it's destroyed your marriage? Melissa, they destroyed my marriage. I just made sure everyone understood what really happened. That afternoon, I got a call from a producer at a national talk show. They wanted me to appear on a segment about infidelity and social media accountability. "We'd like to have you on with your wife and her affair partner," the producer explained. "A chance for all three of you to tell your sides of the story. Will this be a Jerry Springer-style ambush or an actual discussion? We're looking for a thoughtful conversation about modern relationships, social media, and accountability, nothing sensationalistic." "I'll do it, but I want to see the questions in advance, and I want your guarantee that this won't be edited to make me look like a vindictive ex-husband." "Absolutely. We'll send you the question list this afternoon." After I hung up, I realized that this television appearance would be the final chapter in Elena and Brent's public exposure. Whatever they said, whatever excuses they made, they'd be doing it in front of a national audience. They'd wanted to play games with other people's lives. Now, they could play those games in front of millions of people. It was time for the final reckoning. The television studio was smaller than I'd expected, but the cameras were intimidating. Elena and Brent were already seated when I arrived, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else in the world. Elena had clearly spent money she didn't have on a new outfit and professional makeup, trying to look like a sympathetic victim rather than a cheating wife. Brent was wearing his best suit and his most sincere expression, the same one he'd probably used to convince Elena that their affair was just an innocent emotional connection. "Troy," Elena said as I took my seat, "thank you for agreeing to this." "I'm not doing this for you, Elena. I'm doing this because I want people to hear the truth." The host, Sarah Chen, was a veteran journalist known for her tough but fair interviews. She'd promised me this wouldn't be a circus, and I was counting on her professionalism. "We're live in 30 seconds, the producer announced. Sarah looked at each of us. "Remember, this is a discussion about accountability and relationships in the digital age. I want honest answers, not talking points." The cameras rolled. "Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Chen, and today we're discussing a story that has captivated social media and sparked a national debate about privacy, accountability, and the consequences of infidelity. With me are Troy Whitman, a commercial photographer whose wife had an affair, and Elena Whitman and Brent Callahan, the couple whose affair was exposed publicly when Troy shared photographic evidence on social media." She turned to me first. "Troy, let's start with you. Why did you decide to expose your wife's affair publicly rather than handle it privately?" "Sarah, this stopped being a private matter when Elena started using our joint resources to fund her affair and lying to me about where she was spending our time and money. When someone betrays your trust and steals from your marriage, you have a right to defend yourself with the truth." "Elena, how do you respond to that?" Elena had clearly rehearsed this answer. "Sarah, I made mistakes in my marriage. I developed feelings for someone else, and I handled that poorly. But I never expected my private life to be exposed to the entire world. What Troy did was cruel and vindictive. But weren't you the one who chose to have an affair? I chose to explore my feelings for Brent, yes. But I never chose to have my personal life destroyed publicly. I couldn't let that slide." "Elena, you chose to have an affair. You chose to lie about it for months. You chose to use our credit cards to pay for romantic dinners with another woman's husband. The only thing you didn't choose was getting caught." Sarah turned to Brent. "Brent, you were married when this affair began. What's your perspective?" Brent launched into his prepared speech about uncontrollable feelings and innocent emotional connections, but Sarah cut him off. "Brent, I've seen the evidence Troy posted. This wasn't just an emotional connection. There are photos of you kissing, text messages planning secret meetings, credit card receipts from expensive dinners. How do you explain that?" Sarah, Elena, and I developed genuine feelings for each other. We tried to resist them, but sometimes these things happen despite our best intentions. "Did your wife know about these feelings?" "Melissa knew I was going through a difficult time in our marriage." I laughed out loud. That's not what you told Elena in your text messages. According to those, Melissa was a frigid wife who didn't understand your needs. Elena shot me a warning look, but the damage was done. Is that true, Brent? Sarah asked. Did you tell Elena that your wife was frigid? Brent's composure cracked. I may have expressed some frustrations about my marriage, but that doesn't mean I didn't love Melissa. You loved your wife while you were having an affair with Elena? It's complicated. Sarah turned back to me. Troy, some people say your response was disproportionate, that you destroyed two people's lives over a personal betrayal. Sarah, I documented their choices and shared that documentation with people who deserved to know the truth. Elena's co-workers deserved to know she was violating workplace ethics. Melissa deserved to know her husband was cheating. Our friends and neighbors deserved to understand why our marriage was ending. But did they deserve to have their private lives exposed so publicly? Their private lives stopped being private when they started lying to everyone who trusted them. Elena lied to me, Brent lied to Melissa, they both lied to their employers, and they lied to everyone who asked about their relationship. I just made sure the truth was as public as their lies had been. Elena was crying now. Troy, I've lost everything. My job, my marriage, my reputation. Haven't I been punished enough? Elena, you didn't lose those things. You gambled them away. You bet that you could have an affair without consequences, and you lost. That's not punishment. That's the natural result of your choices. Sarah leaned forward. Elena, do you take responsibility for the affair? Of course I take responsibility, but I also think Troy's response was extreme. What would have been an appropriate response? He could have confronted me privately. We could have gone to counseling. He could have given me a chance to end the affair and rebuild our marriage. I shook my head. Elena, you had months to end the affair. You had hundreds of opportunities to tell me the truth. You chose deception every single time. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this. You knew I'd hold you accountable for your choices? You're right. I would have. Sarah turned to Brent. Brent, your wife Melissa has filed for divorce. Do you regret the affair? I regret the pain I've caused, but I don't regret the feelings Elena and I developed for each other. So you'd do it again? If I were single, yes. Elena is an amazing woman and what we had was real. Elena stared at him. Brent, what are you saying? I'm saying I love you, Elena. Despite everything that's happened, despite the public humiliation, I still love you. The studio was silent. Elena looked shocked. Sarah looked fascinated, and I felt like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion. Elena, Sarah said, how do you respond to that? Elena was clearly panicking. Brent and I, this isn't the place for... Elena, Brent continued. I know this is complicated, but we could start over. We're both getting divorced anyway. We could build a real relationship without all the secrecy. Brent, stop. Why? We love each other. Isn't that what matters? Elena looked at him like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. Brent, you just told a national television audience that you don't regret destroying your marriage. You said you'd do it again. What kind of person says that? A person who's honest about his feelings. A person who has no conscience, I said. Brent, you just proved everything I've been saying about you. You don't care about the consequences of your actions. You don't care about the people you've hurt. You only care about what you want. Sarah jumped in. This is fascinating. Elena, you seem surprised by Brent's response. I am surprised. I thought he understood that what we did was wrong. I thought he felt guilty about hurting our spouses. And now? Now, I'm wondering what I saw in him in the first place. Brent looked confused. Elena, we talked about this. We talked about being together once our divorces were final. We talked about a lot of things, Brent. Most of them were fantasies. So what? You're just going to pretend this meant nothing? I'm going to accept that I made a terrible mistake and try to learn from it. Sarah turned to me. Troy, you're watching your wife realize that her affair partner isn't who she thought he was. How does that feel? Honestly? It feels like justice. Elena thought she was trading up when she chose Brent over me. Now she's discovering that she was actually trading down. Elena, is that accurate? Elena was crying again, but these tears looked different. Less self-pity, more genuine remorse. Troy, I know you'll probably never forgive me, but I want you to know that I understand now. I understand what I threw away, and I understand that I can't get it back. You're right. You can't. I also understand that you were right to expose us. We thought we could lie to everyone and get away with it. We thought we were smarter than everyone else. We were wrong. Brent stared at her. Elena, what are you doing? I'm telling the truth, Brent. For the first time in months, I'm telling the truth. Sarah looked at each of us. We're almost out of time. Final thoughts? I looked directly into the camera. Actions have consequences. If you're thinking about cheating on your spouse, remember that. If you're thinking about pursuing someone else's husband or wife, remember that. The truth always comes out eventually, and when it does, you'll have to face everyone you lied to. Elena wiped her eyes. I want to apologize to Melissa, to Troy, and to everyone who trusted me. I made selfish choices, and I hurt people who didn't deserve it. I'm sorry. Brent said nothing. That's our show, Sarah announced. Thank you for watching. As soon as the cameras stopped rolling, Brent stood up and walked out without saying a word to anyone. Elena sat in her chair for a moment, then looked at me. Troy, I know it's too late, but I really am sorry. I know you are, Elena, but sorry doesn't undo the damage. I know. I just wanted you to hear it. She gathered her purse and left, walking out of the studio and out of my life. I sat there for a moment, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Closure. My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Watching the show. Holy shit, Brent is even worse than I thought. You did great. Another text from Paul. Dude, Elena just threw Brent under the bus on national TV. This is beautiful. And another from my neighbor. Troy, you're a class act. Elena doesn't deserve you. I walked out of the studio into the afternoon sunshine, feeling lighter than I had in months. Elena and Brent's affair was finally, completely exposed. Everyone who needed to know the truth now knew it. There were no more lies, no more secrets, no more deception, just consequences. As I drove home, I thought about what came next. Divorce proceedings, dividing assets, rebuilding my life. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be honest. And after months of living with lies, honesty felt like a gift. My phone rang as I pulled into my parking space. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Troy Whitman Photography. Mr. Whitman, this is David Rodriguez from Metro Magazine. We'd like to do a feature story about your photography business and how you've handled this personal situation with such dignity. I'm listening. We're interested in the intersection of art, truth, and personal integrity. Your story has resonated with a lot of people who feel like accountability is disappearing from modern relationships. When would you like to meet? How about tomorrow afternoon? We could do the interview at your studio. Perfect. I'll see you then. As I hung up, I realized that my decision to expose Elena and Brent's affair had done more than just hold them accountable. It had also established me as someone who stood up for truth and integrity. My photography business was getting more inquiries than ever, from clients who wanted to work with someone they could trust. Elena had thought she was trading up when she chose Brent over me. Instead, she'd traded away everything that mattered: her marriage, her career, her reputation, and her integrity. And I'd traded up too. I'd traded a lying, cheating wife for the truth. I'd traded a relationship built on deception for a life built on honesty. It was the best trade I'd ever made. That evening, I sat in my apartment now, editing photos from a wedding shoot I'd done the previous weekend. The couple had been so happy, so obviously in love, so committed to building a life together based on trust and honesty. It reminded me of what marriage was supposed to look like. My phone buzzed with one final text of the day from Melissa. Divorce papers filed. Brent can keep his gym membership and his protein powder. I'm keeping everything else. Thank you for helping me see who he really was. I smiled and typed back, thank you for helping me expose who they really were. Outside my window, the city lights were coming on, each one representing someone else's life, someone else's choices, someone else's consequences. Some of those people were probably lying to their spouses right now, thinking they could get away with it forever. They were wrong. The truth always wins in the end. Sometimes it just needs a little help getting there. And sometimes that help comes from someone with a camera and the courage to use it.